Hello, 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 and welcome to Believe. That's BLEAV in Lions, right here on the Believe Podcast Network. I'm your host at Cavanagh87, Jack Cavanagh, and I am here once again with the governor, an all-time great at nose tackle with 32 and a half sacks in the NFL. But it's not just the pro career, because he's a member of both the Texas High School Hall of Fame and the Hall of Fame for the SMU Mustangs. All pro with the Detroit Lions. It's Jerry Ball. How's it going, Jerry?
Hey man, it's going good, Jack. We're here on another Monday, to talk about our lines and stuff and, try to reinforce the support that we have for them. But it was another tough day. But hey, guess what? Even though it was a tough day, our friends over at Bet Online was still taking bets. Why don't you tell our friends about Bet Online?
It's just the best place you can go for any wager you have. New web interface for the rest of the NBA season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online remains your number one spot for all of the basketball and football action this season. So head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV 50. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, do not wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to bet all of your favorite sports. Bet Online, where the game starts. And when this game started, we didn't actually run a play because the Denver Broncos decided to run a tribute to Demaryius Thomas, and we would like to start things off by sending our love, our thoughts, our prayers, and our support to the family and friends of Demaryius Thomas, the Denver Broncos legend who passed away early last week.
Yeah, we definitely want to send our condolences. And actually, some of his family, actually, his uncle and cousin actually live four doors down from me, and my kids was raised with his cousins. So not only is it something from a fraternal aspect of being a ball player, losing someone from our great fraternity, but it was also a loss to someone, friends and family that is close to our family. So it was definitely tragic. And I ended up speaking with Ray after we had did the preview show, and I didn't know at the time that he had passed. So I called him and said, "Hey man, did you?" He said, "Yeah, man." He said, "I knew. I didn't know how you guys ran the show." I said, "Man, listen, man, we would have gave time for that. So just for you guys know, last week we didn't know that he had passed, but had we known, we would have given the proper respect and time to that." But what he did say is that Damaris had an auto accident and he had been having seizures. And when they had come to the Hall of Fame event this year, he had in his phone some pictures of him having a seizure. And he showed that to the guys. And it was like Ray Crockett, Steve Atwater. Well, anyway, let me not get into because that's a private conversation. But he was having those struggles with the seizures. And what happened was said is that he had a seizure in his shower, and he was there alone, so, but it is a tragedy, but it was coming on from the onset of an auto accident that he had, and these reoccurring seizures.
Yeah, just a sad situation all around. And so the Broncos start the game with 10 men on the field. They leave Demaryius's ex-receiver spot vacant. Lions decline the penalty as well for the delay of game. And apparently that was something that had been worked out pre-game, Broncos head coach Vic Fangio had called Dan Campbell a couple days before to ask him if he would be okay with that, if it was
It was
something.
class.
It was
It was a
classy,
class,
and some things are bigger than football. So it was just nice to see
no doubt.
that's the organization you want to be and you want to root for.
Yep, yep. And then even with, our family there in Oxford, even though we'll talk about the games, but let me tell you something. That tragedy is still with the Lions community, and we hadn't forgotten our fans and our family as well. And we feel for those folks, and we will eternally be tied to it and praying for them.
Yes, we will be. And hopefully we can bring some joy in these tough times and talk some Lions football and just create a sense of community around the Detroit Lions, who are doing some really good things. So we're proud of them for their off the field work. Their on the field work, unfortunately, was not so good this past weekend. It felt to me a lot like the Bengals loss, where there just was not, it was flat. There's
Yeah,
not
it was real flat.
is
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
something is
Sorry.
that something that happens after a big win though, or is
Sometimes, it's like that celebration before you get to the championship round, right? Whereas you're popping bottles of champagne as if you've arrived. It was one win. And of course, with to get the bird, and I know the being ecstatic, but the thing that a coach and a team would have to do is come back and focus.
mhm.
Enjoy the win that one day, but get back to work and focus, but set a standard, so that you're not flat, and so I think that again, I'm not, coach is responsible. He was supposed to have the team ready. He even said himself, as like the defensive line, he don't feel that they played particularly well, and he said that he needs better performance from them. But at the same time, the flatness, it looked like it was for them, like they were going through the motions more than trying to execute a play. They run in the play, but they're not running it with the efficiency and the sharpness. Then you can see it every now and then, with the exception of Reynolds.
Yes, I was wondering how long it would take for you to give the
With the
first Greg
exception
Reynolds
of that
shout out.
young man right there, listen here. DeAndre Swift and Reynolds, that 1-2 combination, and Williams, I like you as a back. I'm not shooting you down, brother. But I think if you look at how the offense moves when those two backs are running the ball, it's very efficient. That ability of catching the ball outside the backfield, running routes and stuff, with this system, that's what they need. But anyway, we'll talk about that a little later. But I would just say, what Coach was saying, he himself know that he didn't really get them where they needed to be and didn't respond well.
Definitely. And it was one of the emphases after the Vikings win that we couldn't let that happen. And then it did happen. And part of it could be all of the illness and injuries in the Lions locker room right now. They had 6
Yeah,
players inactive with
with
COVID, 7 players from the practice squad, and then just look at all the players that had the flu. We had 3
yeah,
offensive linemen dealing with the flu. We had our center out with COVID. We had all
yeah,
these are the defensive linemen that were dealing
yeah,
with the flu. We've got Charles Harris, Ali McNeil, John Penasini, Michael Brockers, Nick Williams, Levi Onwuzurike.
yeah,
The only healthy
yeah,
defensive lineman was the practice squad guy, Kevin Hector, that they just pulled up.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and be honest, in the human element, that I'm sure had some factor in it. But when it goes down in that record book as a loss, they're never gonna come back and say, "Oh man, that's the game that we had 6 guys with flu, COVID, whole nine, da da da." Because man, You know, in the NFL, it's a short memory. You know.
The only time people talk about your flu games is if you have the flu and you absolutely ball out like Michael Jordan.
Exactly.
Apparently, that was Jared Goff's case last weekend. He says he was sicker against the Vikings than this past weekend against the Broncos, which doesn't really
Hey,
bode well.
well, I can tell you this: if he was, then I give him a lot of credit because you know, as a player that has played with a migraine headache, with a stomach virus, a championship game too,
Ooh.
and And when I tell you what's required in the mental toughness to, you know, run your head, the migraine headache, I was really trying to knock myself out. So I was trying to bang my head and knock him out, you know, and I made a hit on the guy and the ball pops up and we take it and end up guy scored and we win the game. But that is a hell of a thing when you're sick and you have to play at that level at any sport. That's a lot of mental toughness and fortitude for a guy that can do that. Real talk. And I'm not just saying it because of my story, but I'm just saying for anybody.
No kidding, especially at the nose when you're leading with your head and taking all those hits. It's
Exactly.
it's a war every play. What championship game was that, or what playoff game was that?
It was literally the high school championship game. It was the 5A state championship. I was a fullback, linebacker, and defensive tackle.
Whew!
And when halftime came, all I could do is go to sleep. And then I got up, finished the game, and we win the state championship. And from Houston to Beaumont, Texas, is like an hour drive. And I didn't even remember us. All I remember is laying on the walkway of the bus, and everybody is above me, just having fun. And all I could do is just sleep because I was like sick, dog sick. I go when we get to the stadium, you know, people are jumping on me and stuff like that, and they don't know I'm sick, you know, and they're like, "Oh, you don't have to be like that." And I just stopped at the door and I looked because I wanted to be a part of it, and I was like, "Mama, take me home, take me home." And you know, then I was calling for my mama.
Jerry Ball, just a mama's boy at heart.
Mama, I said, Mama, take me home. Take me home. She said, okay, baby. All right. I walked to the car where actually my brother went and ran and got the car and brought it up so I could just walk up to the curb. But shoot, man, I was, as they say, I was hit. That's the worst. And I played against the University of Texas one game. I was sick. I threw up with my hands down in a 3-point 3-point stand. Yeah.
And,
And I wasn't out of shape. I was literally sick.
yeah.
And now I'll tell you this, and I know all these little sidebar stories and stuff be having us going off into Yellowstone Park, and there is the Grand Canyon. But honestly, in the blue-gray game, I pulled my groin on both sides and still played in the game. And I played okay. And people say, "Oh man, such and such handled him," you know, because you know they expected me to kind of run through him. But what they didn't know is that I had pulled both my groins, like in practice in pass rush drills. And you know, you got the pro coach. Don Shula is our coach. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm whatever it is, I'm not about to slack off with Don Shula standing right there. I want him to see me. All right. But I was working against myself. But that was a game that was hard because I really couldn't run, couldn't push off and stuff, but I had to fight through it. You know, the time that I think they told me I was gonna play so many plays and then alternate. And I said, man, let me get my plays and get out.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I can only imagine just both groins sprained. You have to, that just had to be an upper body battle for the rest of the day.
all right, listen, ladies, this is not for you. But guys, you know those muscles on both them sides is pulling at at the moon. All right. So when I tell you, man, I had my knees locked for days. I couldn't open them. I'm like, nah, I got pain. Pain.
Oh, poor Jerry. And one question before we do move back to the game. When you did throw up on the field, you didn't get pancaked into it, did you?
No, I did not. But
Good.
guess
What?
what? I did get pancaked.
Oh.
Oh man, I got pancaked on that play too. And the guy say, "Oh, oh shit!" But he had to block me.
Hands slipping off the jersey. Oh no. Ugh. Well, those sound like some battles. I got to know, though, against the Broncos, what's the toughest battle you've had against a player for Denver? Who was the baddest Bronco that you ever faced?
Mark Slerick.
Cool stink.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And with the Redskins, I played with him, but when he was on that Bronco line, he made it. He made him good. That's real talk. That's the only person I worried about was him. And wasn't worried about, but I had to know I knew I had to tighten my chin strap up that day.
He's going to hit you hard, too. And then was he a talker on the field? Because I know he.
No, quiet, man. Quiet. Listen, but let me tell you, he was like if you was running into a Ford Mustang with the engine up front, a big block.
Yeah.
So it's like you can hit a Ford that don't have a Mustang that don't have big block, and you can and kind of get it moving. But if you got a big block on the front end of that, that's how Slerick felt, like he was hitting a big block engine every damn time. And he was strong coming back at you. Between, and I put him in definitely the top 5 ever.
That's high praise.
Listen, Randall McDaniel, Bruce Matthews, Slerick, Larry Allen, Steve Wisniewski at a level was as good as those guys too. But I don't think he played enough where everybody got to see him. Because
he seems like he's one of the more forgotten players in NFL history on the line, which is a damn shame because he was talented.
Yeah. Steve Wisniewski was a good one. And I'm talking about people that, when we battled, we were equally strong. You get what I'm saying? So it was a lot of stalemate type shit. So whoever had the better was the better technician would win the play. All right. So that's kind of the type of game you expect. But if you can keep them tied up where really they try to keep you tied up, but if you can maintain where you holding the line of scrimmage playing against those guys, you doing your job. Because everybody else, they knocking them off for the film.
It's the old saying, an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, and Jerry Ball just maintaining that gap integrity up the middle.
Yeah. I know. Taking those double hits, but that's okay. But back to the Lions and the Broncos and stuff, a guy that can play through the injury is tough. And I think that says a lot about Jared. That's where
definitely. He's shown some toughness and some courage these last couple of weeks from Jared Goff. Only 215 yards passing, a touchdown, and an interception. So you look at the numbers, it doesn't paint the whole picture of what he was working with. An undrafted rookie center. He's got his fourth and his fifth string running backs in the game. The fourth string running back fumbles, which puts them in a bad position. It's just really, it's Craig Reynolds and it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those are the two guys on offense, 73 yards from Amon-Ra, but this offense is going to need a lot of talent in the pass catching game going forward. Because we've talked in the past, I think DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, those are our 2 focal points. We're now going to add Craig Reynolds into that, and maybe Josh Reynolds. I'd like to see him back.
Yeah.
Outside of that, there's a lot of question marks in this passing game.
Yeah. I think Josh Reynolds is, for where the Lions are right now, he's the best receiver that they have in terms of, that real down threat. I think they're still, playing one-on-one with, the other guys and stuff. But I would say that the 2 backs and those, ain't that something, 2 Reynolds, the 2 Reynolds or Swift, that worked.
And then we've got the big offensive line to build behind too. There's stuff to like for Detroit going forward, but what kind of receiver? I'm not asking for names and such, more play style. So you've got the big X receiver like Calvin Johnson. You've got the smaller slot like Golden Tate. What build of receiver do the Lions kind of need right now to put things together?
I think if they can get a possession receiver first, okay? And here's why I say a possession receiver, like a Chris Carter, right?
Yeah.
All right. The possession game is the efficiencies of third down. That's where he has to shine, okay? I think St. Brown can be a big hit guy, meaning he can run the deep ball. He can run some deep routes. I think Reynolds is a good possession, but medium route runner. I don't see him as being, that 9 route threat, which is, a go route where his team are going to, make the safety have to stay back. But I think you first get a possession receiver, because you don't have a quarterback that's going, if it's Jarrett as quarterback, you don't have a quarterback right now that can even really efficiently throw the deep ball with a lot of success. So you get him a possession receiver and let him build his confidence and build the culture of what you're trying to make that offense by having a possession receiver there. Now, if he's not the quarterback, whatever quarterback comes in has a possession receiver to start with until you can get your home run ball, the Randy Moss type, right?
Oh, I would love.
And you see, and Calvin was more of a home run ball. Golden Tate is more of a situation possession receiver, but Golden to me is the slot receiver. He's not the possession receiver. The possession receiver to me is the guy that's going to be on the outside like Calvin. Okay. I put the hit home run hitter on one side that can run the 9 route, and I put the other possession receiver on the other side, and then I have Golden Tate in the slot with the tight end instead of 2 tight ends. Then I'll move the tight end over with Golden, and I run some trips, or I move Golden over there and run trips that way. That way, no matter one, either the tight end or Golden, I can go into trips on any attack any way, and I can walk up as a quarterback and call for it and make that adjustment by say, check 36, or whatever the check is, to let him know we're going to trip over here. That I Golden, I'm going to move you over. Hawkinson, I'm going to move you over here. So that's how I would start building that receiving core. And then, coming back, I'm going to start moving the running back over to that slot where I have Golden at.
Yup.
So now I got that mix. So now you're going to play the personnel for Golden looking for him on third down. Now we're going to stay with the regular formation, but we're going to take the fullback out. We're going to drop him off over here, Swift or Reynolds. What Golden would be doing in motion. Now we mixing it up. But that's how I would build it.
Well, and
Yeah,
that's
to
what I was
start.
hoping to hear too, is these versatile pieces, but you have to have that guy that you can trust on the outside. You have to give Jared Goff his Robert Woods that he had
Yep.
with the Rams. That guy who can get open, can do it all, and make the tough play. Because Jared Goff likes to see his receivers open. He struggles a little bit when he's throwing those jump balls, it seems like. Much like
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater in Denver. And it's kind of complicated with him. He plays a good game. He throws for 2 touchdowns, under
Yeah.
200 yards passing, but there's rumors the Broncos want Aaron Rodgers. There's rumors they want Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson. If those 3 are available, Teddy Bridgewater isn't back, is he?
No. First of all, I think honestly, Teddy Bridgewater and Jared are probably the most to be compared as it relates to where they are with their teams out of all the quarterbacks. Both of them are decent quarterbacks to be in the NFL, but they're not the future of those franchises. Each franchise is going to be trying to get better at the quarterback position. If the Lions is not trying to get better at the quarterback position, I want to make a petition early. I'm gonna be the first name that we force the Fords to sell the team. Because if they're not trying to find a quarterback. Now, I seen someone talk about Russell Wilson to Detroit. Now, Russell Wilson, even though he's latter in his career, the Lions would bring a Russell Wilson in.
He seems
Okay.
like their kind of guy.
He is their type of guy. But here's the problem. They're not close enough to being competitive with where he wants to be right now in his career. That's what his problem was in Seattle. So he's going to come to a squad that is less talented. Now he going to what team was I just thinking about? Going to New Orleans as an example, or going to what other team were they talking about?
Giants were one of the teams I saw listed.
Yeah, I don't think he fits the Giants.
I
Even
don't
though I
either.
think for Hollywood he would be good for what he want to do after ball if that's his move. But I think he wants to win another championship. You know, man, I forget the other team that it was, but it was one that I felt they had Philadelphia. Philadelphia, no. Jalen Hurts, people just need to leave that situation alone. That guy,
Thank you.
they need to just let that dude because he can win.
Yep.
But it'll come to me. But was it Washington?
Washington might have been one of them. Carolina too. Those are some of the other teams.
No, it wasn't Carolina, but it was a team that it really did make sense that he would be a guy that I would look at too for them. They were Denver.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was Denver. He's perfect for Denver. Perfect for Denver. That's who the team was I was like, nah, all these teams Denver make sense because they got a good receiving core already in place. They got a defense that is a good defense.
Yep.
Okay. And he's a piece. And they are like 2-3 pieces, but they competitive. Okay. And he can be the difference in a situation like that. And when you compare, and even though the Broncos and the Lions has a similar situation for the offense and the struggling of the quarterbacks, the Broncos is still a little bit better as a team in their system. They're more acquainted with their players in terms of what they're going to do. And I think they understand their limitations. I think the Denver Broncos' greatest limitation, which people have identified, is their coach. He's a good coordinator, but he's not a great coach for the head piece. And that's no knock on him from my opinion. That's what people are saying that's more acquainted with the Broncos than I are saying that. And then, but I think a guy, like him could definitely fit with the Lions too. But if the Lions would make a move to bring a Wilson in here, then they got to really make some moves because you only really on a 2-3 year at the most type deal.
They'd
You
have to
know,
spend a lot of money to make Russ happy in Detroit for right now with
I
this.
don't even think it's about the money. It's
I
about it's being
getting the
able.
players around him. Sorry,
I'm
spending
sorry.
money to build up the team. Sorry.
Yeah. I apologize for
That's
cutting you out. I know you were making your point, and your opinion is as good as mine. But I don't think for Russell, the incentive for his moving is like based on money. I
yes.
really do believe he wants to win another championship. And in some cases, you'll make an allowance in the salary if you really got a chance. But if you walking in a situation and it's all on your back, okay, then shit, load the wagon, put the money, I'll put it all back there because if I got to carry, then give me mine, you know. But I think he's at a different point in his life, you know.
Definitely. Maybe in 2 years, the Lions have built up the roster, then they become the desired home for the guys like Russell Wilson.
Well, let's hope that there are some youngsters out there that we can grab, right? That can become like Kurt Warner.
Mm.
Not on the radar, but do well enough to lead that team to a championship.
So with that being said, then, do you think the Lions should go young at quarterback, someone in the draft, or maybe a younger player that's in the league as a backup? Or what about guys such as Teddy Bridgewater from the Broncos? Because he and Campbell have that relationship.
Again, Teddy coming in would have to be a secondary choice. He's never going to be the primary for no team going forward. His last real chance was when he was with New Orleans. That he had not New Orleans when he
Carolina?
was no when he was with Minnesota
Oh, yeah.
before he got his knee hurt.
Mm.
That was his last real chance as being penciled in, walking in the starter, and they trying to build the program around him.
Gotcha.
That was the last time that I seen him in that role. Everywhere else he's been after that has been in a designated hitter. He's
Kind
there
of that.
for a role, you know.
Yeah, kind of designated hitter's a good way to put it. I was going to say the bridge quarterback, but it kind of means the same thing. And
Yeah,
that's one of the things.
placeholder. I don't like
Placeholder.
saying placeholder, but that's what the hell you holding until we get what we want. You know.
Truly. And it's kind of felt like the Broncos have had a lot of placeholders since Peyton Manning retired. They had Osweiler, they had Paxton Lynch, Trevor Simeon, Case Keenum, Joe Flacco, Drew Lock, and none of them panned out. So is that something where you're too good at quarterback to evaluate the quarterback position because no one you evaluate is going to be John Elway?
Well, again, there's three edges to that sword, right? One, John Elway is the tipping point. He's the tip of the sword, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now on this side, you got all of what Peyton and John has done. So that blade cuts that way. Then you swing back, cutting the other way, and you have to live down all of the expectation of the fans because they enjoyed everything that got sliced by John and Peyton. Now, by John being the decision maker and the general manager, that's why I say he's the point. Everyone looks at the decisions that he's had to make, which he's made some good decisions, and a lot of people have really criticized him on some of the other decisions that he's made. All right. But here's the difference. John Elway understands football, right? He knows what it takes, but he also had a Shanahan. Go back and list the coaches. Those coaches are running systems that they're acquainted with. John hired them to come in with a system, so it's really his job to get the personnel that they want But again, the general manager, head coach, and quarterback take responsibility for everything going on with the team. And the owner answers when he's on location. But if he's not on location, the general manager, head coach, or quarterback, that's who's going to catch questions every day. So I just say that he hadn't done a bad job. You know, I don't believe, sometimes, when I remember when he signed Case Keenum, that was a situation where they were just didn't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
And he came in, played a little bit, and then they turned back around and gave him a contract. But long, short situations, you never know what it is. It could have been the system, could have been what Shanahan wanted, as an example, versus what was out there.
Yeah. And to your point too, it's not as if the Broncos roster has been bad. At times it's just been a quarterback away. John Elway put together some good football teams that may be missing a piece or two. But if he does land a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers, that goes a long way to solving that problem.
Yeah, well, Aaron Rodgers is definitely a long shot.
Yeah, you don't think he?
I think Russell Wilson is more like. Green Bay would probably trade him now, or would want him to go somewhere like that, but that'd be a long shot.
Going with Russ to Denver, it's going to be fun to see.
I do think it'll be a. Honestly, Aaron Rodgers would be great for him too, though.
Mm-hmm.
He really would. But I think for the style of play, Russell, where he plays, Denver could be a good fit for him.
I'm excited this offseason with these QB carousels because we're still over a month away from the end of the season, and all these rumors are flying this way, that way. This guy's going to sign with this team. This head coach is gone. It's a funny time to be an NFL commentator right now with all the shenanigans going on.
Yeah. Well, that's how the game is. And I think with free agency and, I look at like how the parity is, and you look at the records of the other teams and stuff. It seems like there's some parity, because you don't have no real explosive records out there. Everybody is playing, middle of the fence type football. No one has just separated themselves and said we are the very best in the game. You look at the wild cards and the records and shit. It's nothing that says, oh, they're gonna be there for sure. In 4 weeks, though, some of those teams can be taken off of that board. That's how close it is.
It is. It's like this. There is just no separation in some of these divisions right now.
Yeah.
So, who do you think are the teams to beat then in the AFC and the NFC? Do you have any favorites right now, or is it still kind of?
I think I'm gonna tell you two of the better teams that I think that are out there when I look west, not just saying AFC. When I look toward the west, of course, far west we got the Rams. Mm-hmm. Then Arizona is good. I think they got a pretty good squad. Which is gonna be a little test for our ass. And then when you look at Kansas City, I think, Kansas City, they can still pull it together. You got 4 games, you only got to hit the stride at the end, so I'm not counting them out. And then I think, can't discount Green Bay,
Can't discount them. Can't discount Tom Brady either.
Well, no, that's why I'm coming from the west to the east, to the east, because I can't, when I'm trying to put them in conferences and stuff, I have to think.
Gotcha.
I'm a spatial, visual guy. They say photographic memory. So I'm going from the West to the Midwest, and I'm going to get to these who I think, like in the Northeast, what team I think is good up there? None of them. Except with New England, of course, being one that earned, but I don't see them as no runaway favorite.
No, they're the
No team in the Northeast.
yeah.
Okay. Now, when you get to a Tom Brady, he that's the factor. You know, so definitely count them as one of the better teams, especially if they get in the playoffs. They're gonna be hard to beat. That's just fact.
Yeah.
You know? So
Tom
those
Brady.
are kind of, and of course, now down here in Texas, them damn Cowboys.
The Cowpoke.
Lord, ah,
Oh boy, it would be absolutely unbearable for you should the Cowboys go on a run here.
well, actually, believe it or not, I root for them after I root for my teams. So,
Okay.
I don't throw them away fully. Jerry Jones has been good to Jerry Ball. I'm not gonna lie. Jerry Jones actually, when I had an NFL license, Al Davis told Jerry to call over to J.C. Penney's and set an appointment for me. And he set an appointment at such a high level with J.C. Penney's that they asked me how big did I want to be. And I was already understanding I had 7 figures already invested. And if I would have said 100 million, we were going to program 100 million. But I was thinking how much money I had tied up in the business, and I knew I could only handle so much. So I didn't say that number, but I should have said that number because they would have, helped finance it and would have programmed it and helped me build the brand out. But I was in 200 stores. Jerry Jones set that up for me. And I had an NFL license, Hasbro license, I had Disney license, I had college licenses, I had Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers. I made stuff for Warner Brothers for their studio lot. So some of the
Cool.
shirts they would go there and buy. I made that. I don't know if you remember when the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was
Mm-hmm.
actually on. I used to, there was a guy that actually came up with the brand with the black colleges, but he had the brand and he could make only a few. And I helped them by helping them manufacture that, and all this
Okay.
I was doing while I was playing ball too. You know,
Not just balling on the field, balling in the business world as well,
you better,
making
you
moves.
better believe it. That's a fact. And matter of
Love.
fact, I was the first player ever to have an NFL license, 100% ownership. And when you have a license, that meant that not only was I a player active, I was a partner with the owner on the other side, paying them a royalty out for everything I sell. So I was on both sides of the equation. So I know the business side of it, and I also know the player side of it. That's why when I was a player rep, it wasn't much shit you can get past me because I'm getting the information from the Sporting Good Manufacturing Association that's telling me this is how much revenue you guys did in NFL merchandise, which was being underreported while we're negotiating the CBA. Get what I'm saying?
Really? They were
Oh, well,
underreporting your numbers for your
yeah.
business as
No,
the
no,
player rep.
not my business, not my
Ah,
business. No, let me kind of break it down. And boy, here's another one of them. There go the Grand King. No, but no, honest. This is what it was. All right. In the NFL license, this is the time when branding and licensing was just getting started. People talk about branding and licensing right now, but they don't really understand branding, intellectual property, and how to really institutionalize that. Okay, people are just saying don't want to disrupt their brand or damage their brand, but if you ain't trademarked it, copyrighted it, ended it, I could go out and get it, and then it's my brand,
yeah.
your name, but it's my brand, right? Now, so, but in this process, when we're doing the collective bargaining agreement, the Reggie White settlement, the owners are agreeing to share revenue that would create the salary cap that they would use to determine how much they would have to pay the players. So if they report that they sold $1 billion of starter merchandise and they received, let's say, $200 million off of the billion, and they're going to give us 50% of it toward the salary cap, that meant 100 million would go toward the salary cap. Mm-hmm. But if that number is 4 billion and you do that same equation, it's a different number. So the salary cap where it is today should have been that in 90s based on actual revenue that was being earned. Now I'm not trying to, blow the scene up, but it's like one of those things that I heard the artist Master P says. He says, if you're sending me a royalty check that says domestic royalty, but my music is selling internationally, then where's the international check?
Yeah.
Because you're accounting for it. And that's kind of one of those same things. On this ledger that you got the players focused on, it says this. But over here in the business world where I'm at, and I'm a partner with them, I know that it's 4 times the revenue that you're reporting that we agreeing that you're going to share as a part of the salary cap, or what we call designated gross revenue is what it's termed. So under designated gross revenue, that's how they determine what the salary cap will be.
And so if you play with that, then the salary cap goes lower.
It's lower, and they keep more money. Come on, man. They didn't become billionaires by giving it away. Now, that's a fact.
That's a couple facts right there. Oh,
but
boy.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But
that's the nature of the business and of the NFL. It's an unfortunate reality.
Well, listen here. And this is one thing, there's a Bible verse that say that of the wicked is laid up for the righteous and the just. I try to live my life being righteous and just, meaning that I'm not doing any harm to anyone. And if it's anything, it's going to be self-inflicted. But I try to be just in my decisions and things that I do, because I know that I want to be treated just like anybody else with respect and as a human. All right. So when this thing is going through that process, I'm not trying to blow up the scene because of the business. It's because I also see the aspects of the cost benefit of what it is doing in families and communities. So why would I disconnect something or do damage to something that still is doing great work in the community? Because when the resources come to me and I go do a camp or I support a community effort, I'm still getting the benefit of the transfer. On the business side, in a greater scheme, that's where my union is supposed to be representing us better. It's because I was a businessman and I was a player that I got a chance to see the business side. But if we're not auditing them, or we're not putting in place the proper checks and balances, or we don't understand how revenue is counted, then that's a whole different thing. As a matter of fact, if it was me, I would audit our union before I would audit the NFL.
Interesting.
Because I feel, our union, I feel, is robbing us as players. They're taking our intellectual. Well, they've taken our intellectual property, as an example, in the Reggie White settlement. Okay, and fans, I'm just trying to put you, as they say, put you up on game. In the Reggie White settlement, Gene Upshaw struck a deal that any player, they put the language in the CBA that any player that actually played in the NFL and signed an NFL contract had to become a member of the union. That's illegal.
Yep, very much so.
But that shit is in the CBA. Now, if a player didn't give their union dues Our union, and I think when the last time I read it, it was in section 6. Our union would have the ability of actually executing a letter to the NFL asking them to suspend us from work until we gave them the dues.
That's not how that's supposed to work.
But that's how it was negotiated, and that's in the language of the CBA. But again, all of these Wharton, Harvard, people that's representing athletes, that are also representing some of these owners, that are also understanding the bigger picture of the economics of the business. Again, if the players are not going to force the union to literally do their job, then these type of things are always going to be. The way that the union will shut me down, they say one player isn't bigger than the whole. I'm not. But I'm the only player that had the license that got the data. And when I shared it with some of the people that say this, all of them got promoted to being directors and board members because of the information I gave them. They came and struck deals with them. And that means that some of the players took money or took situations or are employed right now to be quiet. Again, I'm not trying to blow it up. It's just the facts. Again, righteous and just. And the way that it comes to me is that, again, I have an NFL license, but I'm represented by a law firm that was representing Ralph Wilson, the owner of the Buffalo Bills. So when we're dealing with this Reggie White settlement, because you got a plaintiff and a defendant on the inside of the same law firm, this law firm name is Dyke Gossett, the largest law firm in Michigan at the time. And I had a partner and he had a partner. We both were in court on opposite sides, but by the integrity of the law, we have to exchange files. So I would see everything that's in his files. He would see everything in my files, so that the firm wouldn't give neither one of us a competitive advantage over the other. And when I got Ralph Wilson files, that was a federal deposition that was filed by Norman Brayman that he paid $100 million under the table to our union to settle this, that they wasn't telling the court or the class, which means the players. So when you the player that find that, then all of a sudden, people wants to be hands off, or let's say at a level trying to blackball me, but I can play ball. So I ain't worried about playing football. But in this situation, what do? So what I do, I bring it to some of the elite players and I share it with them. Because at this time, we had the NFL properties was actually coaching us through the whole marketing aspect. They're helping our businesses, So while we're doing that, we're flying different places, just meeting. And the gentleman from the NFL told us before it happened that Gene was going to do that, and told us to actually go out and make sure that we set up another company that could represent players, because after they sign this agreement, if it's not grandfathered in, there will be no other organization that could represent players. Wow. And I set that up, me and Ronnie Lott. We set it up. It's called the Hitters Club. It was set up in Delaware. We're the only entity that is established that could actually go out now and represent players, but that's not what we were trying to do. We was coached to do that. You know what I mean? We love the NFL. The NFL been good to us, but that's how the business was taking place during that time. Yeah. Wow. I know that, and I know this is real heavy for a lot of folks to understand and hear, but I promise you this: the commissioner know what I'm talking about.
Yes, he
The former
does.
commissioner know what I'm talking about. The judge Doty know what I'm talking about. Norman Brayman knows what I'm talking about. Any owner that was actually an owner during that time know what I'm talking about. And then after that, they sent a guy and they bought that team from him and gave Norman Brayman $100 million, and he went on his way.
And just because
All I
of
was saying, you should have sent me at least 10 to 20 million. Hell, I didn't say shit.
didn't even have to buy Jerry's silence.
Come on.
But just the way the NFL and businesses in general operate is just you almost wouldn't believe it until you hear these stories, and you can't not believe it.
Listen, this story is only known by a small group of people. They will never, ever, ever talk about this because they don't want no one to know about this. But when they're talking about Gene Upshaw sold out the players, this is what they're talking about. I am the person, because of having an NFL license and being represented by this law firm, got the information. And it was because of the legal course. I didn't have no idea that it existed. Hell, I was a player rep too. So when we're having our meetings, nobody ain't talking about none of this stuff Norman Brayman was talking about in that document. We didn't even know that anything like that had taken place because they had hid it from the players. Our union, the way our union does business with us is like this, and you can ask this. If there's 100 issues on the table, they're going to make the decision on 80 of them and give the players 20 of them to talk to be distracted. But the real decisions, the people in that work for us are making them decisions without our input. That's why DeMaurice, the reason why this guy shouldn't be the actual head of the union, but they got it so fixed that you can't even raise an issue to challenge him to fire him. Because you got to get approval from the people that's benefiting, that's a part of the whole setup. So you can't even fire him. You couldn't even get it audience. It's to a level where you have to submit things to the board member to table something to be at a meeting, and then the board decides whether or not it's important or not, and then you find out who's the board members, and it's the very people who you want to bring a complaint against. That's how they got it wired. Or when they got a retired system out here that's supposed to be assistant players called the NFL Player Retired Chapter, and everybody thinks that the player union represent retired players. No, by the bylaws, they say in the bylaws that the NFLPA does not represent anyone but active players. So what they did, they went out and created a 501c6, which is like a chamber of commerce. There's about 5 cities that have a retired chapter that fall as incorporated as businesses. I think Chicago, Washington, Dallas, and others, they have theirs set up, but most of all the other retired chapters were set up as a 501c6, which means it's a chamber of commerce. And as the IRS standard. And then when you look at those rules and you see that the taxes are being done by the DC office because you don't have nobody in Texas that's filing it, or in Virginia that's filing it, it's all been filed in DC. So how does a 501c3, which is a separate entity, do the taxes for a 501c6? And it's a totally separate entity, and they both got 2 different statutes of standards by the IRS code.
Yeah.
All right. So those are the type of things when, again, I'm managing the process, I'm in the business, these things are so blatant. You know how I get into knowing all this is because I asked them to give me the retired chapter to give me some bylaws. And in the bylaws, this gentleman, which was a former player that's an attorney now, he's an acting attorney. And the documents he handed me was so raggedy. We're in Texas, and it said that it needed to be handled in the state of Virginia. Then it had cut and paste things that was literally disclaimers that was indemnifying him for what he's doing under Texas statute. But then when you understand the RS laws, it says that no one that is an officer can receive more benefit than any of the members of the 501c6. In other words, all chamber members would be equal. This guy in there soliciting for, retired players' businesses and things, which is what we're not supposed to do. But then if you had a business, then they want to charge you to come present something to the other players.
So yeah,
it's just so much contradiction of what should happen that it can't even get organized, because those people, like this particular guy, when I asked him why did he want to become player rep, is because he said when he was a player that he didn't get a chance to make the money like we made when the PA would call us to go do an appearance with Frito-Lay or doing something, but now was his time as a retired player. Now he's going to try to go and make his money.
That's people's livelihood.
That's the type of stuff that you're dealing with. So guess what I do, Jack? I stepped away from the game because I know it ain't no sense in me getting it. You guys are not ready for where I am, because I'm going to bring the facts. And if you can't address this in a very intelligent way, then I already know that you got something in this.
Yeah.
So I just step back and stay in my world.
I can't say I blame you for that at all, but
yeah.
As always, Jerry Ball will stand up for what's right and will tell the truth no matter what. And
no matter what.
Thank you for sharing those stories, and I applaud you for your honesty and your courage.
Yeah, it takes that, because trust me, I was being blackballed.
Yeah,
the only team that signed me was the Raiders, but I wanted to play for the Raiders. They were blackballing me.
Leave it to Al Davis leave it to Al Davis, though, to be the one to say, no, he deserves a job. We're signing him.
Wow. No doubt. And then paid me. Well, anyway, I ain't gonna talk.
But no, credit to you and credit to Al Davis, and thank you for sharing that story and for wow. Just wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is something to sit on, and I hope we can all just take a minute to think on that for a little bit.
Yeah. And anytime that you on when we have Lomas on, you can ask him any of this. And you know what was crazy? What made me get into the licensing business, this is what it was. This is literally what happened. I'm down at a local drugstore, regional store, and it has these Detroit Lions shirts because we're winning now. We're starting to win. So this is like 89, 90. So they got all these shirts and they got images of all of us, but it's like about 9, 10 guys on the shirt. So just so happened the next day we're having a players union meeting, and Gene Upshaw is supposed to come. He makes his round every year. So this is his time to come to Detroit. We're going to have a meeting. And it's right before the meeting, guys started in the meeting room started talking about the T-shirt and who did the T-shirt, because ain't nobody's paying us for our images.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I don't know anything about that shirt. We'll look into it. Where on the outside, Lomas and I were talking with Braxton Banks, God rest his soul. He played at Notre Dame, about the shirt. because we're trying to put the agenda of what we're going to talk about before we go back in the meeting room. And we tell him about the shirt. He like, oh, yeah, we did that shirt. But inside, Gene Upshaw saying he don't know nothing about it. So when we get to that part of the meeting and we're asking about the shirt, Gene was like, yeah, I don't know who did that shirt. And Braxton said, nah, Gene, no, that's the shirt. You approved that shirt. Remember you called and said, hey, the Detroit shirt need to get out of. And the guy said everything that he had participated in getting it done. So because of that, I did my research and I ended up starting a t-shirt business. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to make shirts for us. And I started it that way. And then when it got a license, and then I hired the guy that I hired, his name was Robin Brent. Now I'm gonna tell you, this guy here did all of the bad boy memorabilia. I went to the company that was making it. He was the person doing the designs and everything. The Pistons logo, when it actually changed to that black stallion with the muffler, that was created on my computer by the same gentleman. So I had one of the very best guys in this business, and he came in and he did some stuff for me, Barry, and all those guys. And then I got the quarterback club and everything. I even made sure he was a part of my Sports Illustrated article to show his work. But that guy established me, because you could have started a t-shirt, but if you don't have the right time and everybody's on that whole trend, bad boy, and he just took it and moved it over to the Lions with the Lions pride and thumbs up and all that stuff. So anyway, that's how I started it. And that's how it all came about. Gene lying to us as players that they making this money and gonna tell us they don't know nothing about it. Then, okay, well, we'll make our own shirts then. And that's what I did.
And then, funny enough, you're the one that kind of uncovers all the other things that they were lying about.
Exactly. Because I'm in the business. And having that license, I got to be a part of the Sporting Goods Manufacturing Association. And they count all retail sales for all stores. So every starter jacket that was sold, they counted that. And that's what was shorted the most, was the starter jackets.
Really?
Yeah. But anyway, that's 1990. We started it in 90. All this other stuff came out in 92, 90. And then they settled it in 93. So that's in this 3-year window, all this is taking place.
Oh, what a wild 3 years that would have been. And here we are now, and we're still pushing forward and still hoping to push some things forward and make life better in the NFL for players, current and former.
Well, no doubt. I think, it's already better. It's some of the things that has come here in the last years should have been here for the older players. I think the biggest thing right now is to really try to get some of the retroactive money to some of the older players, because some of these guys' pension are like $400, $500, man.
Yeah, that's
and to me, shit, man, they should have been, brought those guys up, and they gave them a bump. I ain't gonna lie and say it, but they should give them a bump at the same level. If they need to bring them up to the players that was in my era, at least. The players, what they getting right now, shit, man. If we was to getting that, man, that's
yeah. Take care of the people that took care of you and helped you build the NFL
foundation of it. That's right.
Especially with the vast amounts of wealth, it's the least you can do to take care of your veterans and your people who made you as a business.
Correct.
So any other pluggables we want to plug, or any conversations we want to go out on here, Jerry?
Well, no, I just think, for where we are in this part of the season, the guys talked about, Plan Dan talked about the guys. He'll see who they are and what kind of pride they bring forward. I think everybody's professional and guys are going to play with a lot of pride. But we just hope that, it can get some momentum and something that can be built on in these last games that they can take going forward. And I'm not going to say this, but just I'm going to put it as a place marker for a future, a future idea about the future of the Lions that I'm going to say, but I don't want to speak nothing over nobody's else, life or situation. But I'm going to make an observation. And it would be a bold move for the Lions. But when you at this situation, you got to be bold.
All right. I got to be bold this offseason.
Yeah.
It's a time to be bold, a time to swing for the fences, and a time to right some wrongs and get the ship headed in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with that, you ready to break it down, Jerry?
Yes, sir. 1, 2, 3. We believe.
believe.
Peace.